I mean, like you were saying earlier before we started this, that the bear is, just glorifying old old school kitchens, and it's on it like you're watching it. It's not healthy. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, chefs are cool right now.
Are they?
Like the sexy chefs.
I
are
am
cool.
definitely not cool. So chefs should be just wearing their knickers in public. God,
I
no.
hope not.
I think Mattison
Yeah.
is, for me, I relate more to him than I
Yes.
do.
Yeah. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Line Check podcast. Today I'm in the studio with Ben Quinn of Canteen in the UK. This could be a really great episode. He came down on a whim. He's just in town, and I just hit him up and was like, hey, I had a really great time talking to you at Outstanding in the Field the last time we met, and it would be really cool to have you in the studio to talk about your business model and, what you do.
Yeah, nice one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, thanks for following through on that. And
Yeah, of course.
it's lovely to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's good to have you. I'm glad I caught you at the right time. I mean,
Yeah.
we just happened to have someone cancel on us last minute,
Oh,
and
I
I was like,
see.
we have an
Okay.
empty slot, and I was
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna just make sure I get you in here.
Yeah, good man.
Yeah,
Thanks, mate.
yeah. How's your day today?
Good. Yeah. I'm just about getting used to driving around LA. I'd say I'm an all right driver, but
Hmm.
geez, I'm witnessing some stuff out there. So yeah, it's a balance of like loads to do, loads of people to see, loads to eat,
Hmm.
having a brilliant time doing that, and then just coming down off of the like slight panic of driving.
Hmm.
So, forgive me. The roads are wonderful. They're lovely. I enjoy my time here.
Yeah, well, it's also raining too.
Oh no,
It's
the rain's good.
the rain's good. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
too crazy with the
I've
rain.
been out of the UK for 6 weeks now, so I'm starting to miss it. And yeah, a bit of rain's all right.
Okay, that's good. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about Canteen?
Okay. Yeah, so Canteen was started kind of on a bit of a whim. I had these events companies in the UK, and we were starting to get really successful, travel around all over the place. But the balance just wasn't quite there, and I was starting to burn my team out. I was starting to basically create an environment that my values and beliefs as a person weren't really aligned with. So I started Canteen really simply to employ my team year round in a seasonal place. I live in Cornwall in the UK. It's a lot like here. There's lots of beaches and lovely lifestyle, but it does have a winter, so it does go a bit slower. So Canteen was this kind of respite from the events side of the world. People could slow down. It was this year-round opportunity for employment, and then also it was this idea that good value food could also have good values. Cheaper food didn't have to also be cheap to the planet. And we just started out with just doing 2 dishes, and we would, make them as beautiful as we would for the events. It was locked in at a particular price, and we would sell it till it's gone. So, all the people that manage any kind of food and beverage organization out there, they'll know that, I had zero wastage. I didn't have a massive mise en place list. I didn't need loads of staff. So already I'm cutting like quite a few costs, and we just pass that back in that value saving to the guests. And that's where this good value, but good values kind of ideal came from. And, pandemic, slight restructuring and changes. We've seen a lot actually for a small, relatively recent business, but we're all right. We're doing okay. Like we're still kind to each other, and we're still seeing growth and all the important things like, the numbers.
Yeah.
But I think more importantly, what we're seeing opportunities, even like this. Like there's no right for me to be sat here. There's no right for me to find myself working all over the world. But there's something in the energy, there's something in the culture of the way we do things at Canteen that are leading to opportunities that are way above our paycheck. And that's a great sign for me and the team back home.
That's awesome. Yeah, so a little bit about Outstanding in the Field. If you guys don't know about it, Outstanding in the Field does events with chefs on farms or just different like landscapes, beautiful landscapes. I would
Yeah.
say that. and we met Ben Quinn, Chef Ben Quinn, when Lacita did a collab dinner with other chefs from LA at Coleman Family Farms.
Yeah.
And Chef Ben Quinn was the expediter for that event.
Yeah.
And basically, you were just helping bridge the gap of how service works to the chefs that are coming into unknown landscape, where
Yeah.
they have like no idea where plates are, or what course we're on, or
Yeah.
when the food will go out,
Yeah.
and just kind of helping ease the pain of the unknown.
Yeah.
So it made our life a lot easier.
Yeah.
Any questions, we just asked Chef Ben.
Yeah.
And me and Nico talked to you a little bit, and
Mm.
we kind of picked your brain on, who is this guy? Like you said, other people ask you earlier.
Yeah.
And it was just really inspiring to us of your business model and how people that work within your business grow and then
Yeah.
become partners.
Yeah.
And you have a family, and then also having a work-life balance,
Mm.
which is very important for something that I would like to accomplish when I open my own business.
Okay.
And for Chef Nico as well of Lacita,
Yeah.
who has a family now. And Nico told me that you're in town, and he's like, you should hit up Chef Ben. And I was like, okay, I will.
Yeah.
And so here you are.
Yeah.
And, I'm excited to have you here and talk about all the things, and,
Cool.
get your reach out to people that are,
Yeah.
interested or need to be inspired.
Yeah. I mean, again, thanks, mate. This opportunity is a great chance for me to speak to, people around the world, but more specifically, I guess, more people here in California and LA about, the way that I've kind of figured these things out, these questions
Mhm.
that need to be answered. And, you could get, really into it and try and really understand the nuances of it. But for me, it was super simple. It was like I was working in hospitality, but I didn't feel like it was the most hospitable environment that I could create as an employee. And so when I was setting out to do my own thing, I was very much like, right, the typical model is I need, a nice space, a nice location, and I need to fill it with some nice equipment, and I need to fill it with some nice furniture and some nice music and nice acoustics and, nice ambiance. And then one day I'll open, and it needs to be some nice food, and we need to make a nice bit of money. And I just thought, God, there's too many things that I'm hoping to be nice. There's too many factors that I'm not in control of.
Mhm.
So I was, doing that jump off point that so many chefs and bar managers and hotel managers and all you guys out there, you're all at this stage where you're like, all right, how do I make this start to work for me? Like there's the passion and the love and the reason that you're in there, you know, going to that place every single week in, week out, and, quite often coming out of it on your day off, Monday, Tuesdays, and going, right, well, is this it then? Is this what I'm going to do forever? And yeah, for me, I was really driven by trying to answer that question very much from. This is gonna sound a bit mad, right? But basically, I became a dad at 24, and I had a daughter, and I looked at my daughter Blossom, and the penny dropped. I was like, geez, I am a massive part of the problem. This woman, girl at the time, obviously baby girl, was going to grow up, and she was going to grow up in a world which really wasn't anywhere near close to what it needed to be. For me to feel like I was being a good dad, I needed to seriously adjust what being a good man was.
Mhm.
And then, that wrecked my head basically for most of my 20s. Guilt. Okay, I'm not only am I a man, I'm white, I'm British, I'm straight, I'm a bit of an alpha born leader. I had all these things that I had to realign and try and understand how my position of privilege could be, part of the solution for my girl. And when I looked at it through the lens of my life, hospitality, I realized that a lot of the mechanisms that we have in business, in hospitality, are led predominantly by the patriarchy. They're very masculine. The military hierarchy, the Escoffier system that we all run our kitchens
Mhm.
to, that was developed out of the French military about 110, 120 years ago. The a la carte system, a little bit older, but that was basically born out of this idea to fulfill the egos of the upper classes, not the super upper classes, but the upper classes, they wanted to eat like, the top classes of France. So they used to sit and eat the top classes 6-7 hours. Okay. That wasn't going to, and it would cost whatever it cost, and that was all good. So they needed a new model. And so out of the ego of that came a la carte. And it was a free 4-hour experience, and it was 4, 5, 6 courses. And there you go. You got a structured menu and you've got an organized kitchen. And we haven't done anything else since. It's multiple choice, and it's a big old fat patriarchal pyramid. And, so I really dug into that, and I didn't have these terms that I'm using now, it was just emotions and energy and feelings. And this doesn't feel right, and that doesn't smell good, and I don't feel good about that plate of food. And it was all born out of the fact that it just was not a safe environment for my daughters now to work in. So I needed to do something about that to sort of leverage my own guilt. And so through that, I really understood that to make a hospitable environment, you needed to look at different leadership styles. And it was the matriarchal leadership styles. It was the maternal instincts that were really drawing me in, not just in terms of trying to figure out, the dismantling of the patriarch, but also my food. Like, I am massively inspired by women around the world who are still cooking on fire because they have to, not necessarily blokes cooking on fire because it's trendy. Like, that doesn't cut it for me. And I am a bloke that cooks on fire who's trendy. Like, I know the irony of that. But what I'm saying is I would much rather eat that sort of maternal style food than I would the more refined food. So I was already starting to place this need for change and starting to understand some of the mechanisms. And then I was able to start to, in my own backyard, like, practice this stuff and see if it worked. So, my reputation now in the UK, Europe, and I suppose over here is not based on what you'd expect a man that looks like me and sounds like me and has come from my background would judge as as a typical way to be told you're doing a good job, mate. My whole reputation is based on just how kind I can be and how empathetic I can be and how emotionally intelligent I can be. And I do that in incredibly stressful environments. Admittedly, we are just feeding rich people. Like, no one's been shot at, no one's dying. But I've learned that I get way further ahead by being cool and being kind and making a space feel safe than I do sticking my chest out, chopping the board, using those typical terms. That doesn't, for me, that's not worked. Sorry about that. It's a bit much in one go.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. And what I was talking to you about earlier, working at Lassa, and prior to Lassa, it was Lassa. That it was the first kitchen that I have ever worked in where no one yelled at anybody.
Right.
And everyone was just willing to have a helping hand to anyone instead of like every man for themselves, or, this is your station, that's your responsibility.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're stuck in the weeds in your station, you can rely on someone else to come and help you.
Lovely.
No one's in the weeds because there's always someone next to you.
Yeah, lovely.
So I learned that when I started working with Chef Nico, that the way to lead is to be empathetic and to lead with compassion. And, I think that's why we just embodied what you're saying very well.
Yeah, cool. I mean, obviously, there are, pillars out there, examples. There's loads of amazing female chefs who are killing it with kindness. And there's loads of really great examples, I feel, in other industries of this style of leadership. But it is still weird for two guys to stand in a field in our, the peak of our industry and to be okay with talking about the fact that we prefer it when it's not shouty. Like most high profile chef environments that we go into will still be old school. Even if it's just microaggressions, it's still there, mate. Like,
yeah, I
Like I feel it as
I
soon as I walk in. I'm
I
like,
felt it as soon as you walked in.
really?
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna say who, but obviously, but
yeah,
I can see it as well. It's just like someone that just wants to have ownership of what they do and
fully.
then bloat about it and
Yeah,
microaggressions.
yeah, man. And also, using empathy and emotional intelligence as a completely like novice
Hmm.
psychologist, I guess, like someone that's just learning from my own lived experience. Quite often, the reason why someone is bringing those microaggressions or macroaggressions is because they are feeling vulnerable, they're unsafe, they need to grab hold of something.
Hmm.
They've been taught through millennia that the louder they shout, the more control they feel. The reality is that what they do create is they create a very quick safety net, but it's not a lasting environment, because as soon as they lower their voice, as soon as they turn their back, as soon as they're not on shift, people will use their everyday behaviors to get them back.
Hmm.
You know, they will, because, you know, if someone's an asshole, like you really want to balance that book. And if the only way you can do that is by screwing their section over or waiting for them to go down in the weeds and not jump in, or like gloating over a bad review, like that energy will just carry on, negative after negative. But as soon as someone walks in, I mean, outstanding in the field is a great example, and I really hope that Seth and the crew don't, mind me using it as a working example. But
Hmm.
the success of outstanding in the field is because it is female led. Like you walk into any of those events, and it is the most badass hospitality females I've ever met. They get so much shit done, like physical shit, emotional intelligence shit, like working with the best chefs, the most incredible environments, championing, growing in a regenerative manner for like since 1999.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? This
Yeah.
is like OG good stuff that they're doing. And what it allows me to do is to jump into an environment where they bring these incredible chefs to site. They're under huge amounts of pressure. And I literally just practice emotional intelligence and seeing how quickly kindness can create a much safer environment to not only a great service for outstanding in the field, but also a lasting friendship.
Hmm.
Like I'm a guy who comes over to California for a couple of weeks, bangs out 4 or 5 dinners with outstanding in the field, and has made like proper friends in service.
Hmm.
Like there's something weird going on there. Like there's got to be. But I didn't invent it. I'm just using my privilege to practice it. And I think it's really important that we reflect upon the fact that if people are watching this, or if you're inspired by anything we're talking about, like you don't need to necessarily get in touch with me. It would be wonderful to hear from you. But the reality is that there is someone in your network who is female or identifies as female and is killing it with kindness already. Like there's the inspiration. Look
Hmm.
there. For me, it's my wife. Like what she's been able to create within her world is the blueprint that I then take into my world with my privilege, rip it off completely, crush it, and end up sitting here, you know,
Yeah.
talking about it.
Hmm.
So I think it's important that people find, who's inspiring them in their community, and support them and make sure they know, like, it's cool that they don't lose their shit. It's cool that they care and remain calm and kind. And ultimately for our industry, hospitality, the knock-on effect is retaining staff and really like a beautiful energy in the kitchen that spills out onto the front of house. And ultimately, I think that the guests can literally eat my words in the dishes and in the way that they're being served. They can feel it, and that leads to word of mouth, which leads to more income, which is a good business model.
Hmm.
I think I pretty much just said that equality or equity or feminism is the secret to saving hospitality.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, my partner Sasha, she's very empathetic and reminding me uh, why the things that we do, if it so be community based or donation based, that it's important that we give back to everybody, and because we do events,
Okay.
community events where we host different vendors, say like like three chefs, an art vendor, and then a DJ, and then some donation based thing going on where we bring people together so it can be uplifting the community.
Yeah.
And if we don't get much money out of it, that's okay, because in the long run, it benefits us because we're giving back.
Yeah. Cool.
And we want to build our business model off of that. And
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, what that reminds me of is something that we figured out at Canteen on our early doors, and we call it the energy credit system. So basically, the notion is you wake up each day and you have 20 energy credits. Decide a number
mhm,
as a team. I mean, let's say this morning I woke up with 18 because last night I had a beer or two. So you come into to service and into work, and you say, okay, how's everyone going? Like you asked me,
mhm,
and people just might be like, you know what, I'm at 20, like I'm ready to go. I'm at 18, I'm at 16, whatever. And then you go through service, and obviously you have situations that present themselves which require you to pay out some energy, like a bank.
mhm,
You give people a bit of credit, and the theory being that they pay you back that energy. And sometimes that doesn't happen. Actually, quite a lot of the time, that doesn't happen. So I think it's really important as a business that you have behaviors which top up the energy credits of the owners, but also of people that work there in more ways than just the money.
mhm,
Money's great, but it is a bit of a magnifying glass.
mhm.
If you've got money and you're unhappy, you'll just be rich and unhappy.
Yeah.
It's the reality of it. So the benefit of what I'm trying to say is the mechanism of rating your sort of what we in business terms they call it KPIs, key performance indicators. If you've got a happy staff, if their energy are up, if you're doing things that are altruistic or more about the world than just filling people's tummies and making money,
Mhm,
then it does have a knock-on effect on the financial situation of the business. And I mean that's so important, right?
mhm.
Because sadly, without the money, like nothing will happen.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to continue going.
Yeah, but it's still making sure that you value those things. We're able to evaluate, like with raw data, therefore, how our team are feeling and how that affects our outcomes. So because we ask those questions, how are you? Energy credits, okay.
Mhm,
And then what that's allowed us to do is it's allowed us to not apply extra pressure to a team member when they've communicated really safely
mhm,
that right now is not a good time. And the safe boundaries of that has meant that we've been able to create a matrix of skills within our organizations, which means that if you're not hot, if you're not feeling it, then you're not going to be host.
mhm.
You are definitely going to be swapping in and maybe even just washing up because that's the best place for you on that day. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And then equally, with some of the charitable stuff that we do, it's been very much about sharing the glow of that. So when you do the thing and the response and you is positive and you go to the end user that you're helping or you experience feedback from the end user, it's really imperative that the whole team feel that
Mhm,
it's not just a founding member that gets that, because you can't pass that energy on again. You can tell them, oh, we got this wonderful letter here from the hospital and they said thanks so much for the work that you did. But if the team are there and being thanked by the doctors and nurses, um, they end up with this story, this narrative inside of them that they can call upon when they're not feeling so great about life in work or otherwise. Um, and that actually all came about through the pandemic, understanding
mhm.
the importance of that stuff.
That's great. I
Mm.
really love the energy credits.
Yeah,
It's a way without someone having to reveal too much about what's going on in their life, or if they're not feeling great.
yeah, fully.
Um, just make it at ease. There's a lot of people that go through things every day, and a lot of us don't know, and it's
Yeah.
okay if we don't know.
Yeah.
And that's a good way of dictating
Even
how to,
mid-service,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, I've had a rough last year, and
Okay.
you know, that's the great mall to go through because I see people that you can see it in the eye
Mhm.
that they're just not having the great day, and
Yeah.
I want to be like, hey, like, what's wrong, man? Like, are you okay? But I know some people aren't okay with telling
Yeah.
everything about it because they might feel like
Yeah.
a little hurt or something like that. But
Yeah, fully.
it's a good way to just check in and
Mm,
know, and it's like, hey, I got you, like
fully. But but you're so right. Like, we're all just getting to grips with
Mhm,
this importance of mental health, and just like physical health, it's really important that we, train ourselves personally, and then equally that we're there to support other people. But do not say, "Hey, I got you," if you're not strong enough
mhm,
or have the resources to got them,
mhm.
because they will fall on you, and you'll both be hurt.
Yeah.
Like, it's so important that we set up these safe ways to communicate and signpost. And then as organizations, we take responsibility for the places that we're putting people so that we can facilitate the help that they might need because of the environments that we put them in. Like, if I put my team in a situation where they end up being verbally abused by a shitty customer, like, that's my responsibility to make sure that they do not take that on in life as a trauma that happened under my watch. If someone comes into my work, that works for me and is carrying something from their own life, that's very important that they feel safe, that they don't need to talk about it. But we understand that, people go through things like a family. And if they just want to put their head in the dishes all day and wash up, and that's good for them, they know that they can do that.
Mhm,
Like, the amount of times that I used to, especially as a senior chef, like, I was a senior chef, so I was in charge, and I'd just become a dad. There is no way I should have been running that pass some nights.
mhm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So, but wouldn't it have been wicked, like, as a new dad who was like tired and stressed and worried, if the emotional intelligence had been there in the team to be like, do you know what, mate? Just cook some steaks tonight. Like, fill your heart.
Mhm,
Go back to like what you actually love about cooking. Top yourself up. I got it. Wouldn't it? And so it's kind of out of all those learned experiences that these things now exist in my world. And then I guess also, what part of my business does is this advice and guidance. And it does seem like we're at a brilliant tipping point in the industry where people are asking, okay, what can we do about this? They're not covering it up
mhm,
anymore. They're trying to look for other ways. And I'm not saying I have all the answers, but some of the advice and guidance that I've been lucky enough to give over the last 2-3 years of figuring some of this stuff out has led to like a more sustainable business model for those businesses. And I'm really excited to carry on that exploration and that advice and guidance and support to see if we can just refine this model a bit deeper and get to a point where we're making hospitality really hospitable again. And then, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? Imagine if, like, it'd make rubbish TV, but imagine if the bear was actually just full of people being really kind to each other.
it wouldn't be a TV show. Then no one would want to watch that anymore.
Maybe just in LA.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, like you were saying earlier before we started this, that the bear is, just glorifying old old school kitchens, and it's on it like you're watching it. It's not healthy. It's horrible.
Yeah,
And like you said, it's like PTSD for some of us cooks and chefs that used to work in kitchens that are like that.
yeah, fully. But it's wicked TV
Hmm.
and amazing acting and so realistic,
Hmm.
and so much love has gone into the bear and so much attention, and it's really helped the industry from a point of view of how do I put this?
See it
I
as it
think,
is.
yeah, and I think it's re-attracted people to it because it seems cool.
Yeah, chefs are cool right now.
Are they?
Like the sexy chefs
I
are
am
cool.
definitely not cool.
You saw his ad, the chef of or
Oh, in
the
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 Calvin
bear.
Klein.
Yeah, Calvin. There, see.
Yeah, but he's
He
got
would
an amazing body
he
and
would have
like.
never been on that Calvin Klein ad if he wasn't in that show.
So chefs should be just wearing their knickers in public. Is that? God
I
no.
hope not.
I think
Yeah,
Mattison is for me. I relate more to him than I
yes,
do.
yeah.
I don't know. We're kind of dancing around a little bit, but basically, the Bears great TV. But if we carry on, promoting that old school way of hospitality, it will really stunt our growth and our ability for basically to be creative, like to come up with something new. It's really important the blood in your brain is going to, parts of your brain that create ideas, new synapses cracking off and new ideas coming together. And you to be able to be in that headspace, you literally cannot be under any kind of stress or threat, because otherwise the blood will just go to some really old parts of your brain where it's fight or flight freeze. So unless we create safer environments, we're not going to have the imagination to be able to see our world in a different way. And the trouble with the popular incarnation of the industry is that for me it kind of buries us under at least another decade of like, oh, that's how it is, rather than like someone going like, check it out, this family feeling, lovely, beautiful peasant style food, coming to tables where there's that connection and association with ultimately a commercial model that does good. It look at the soil we're building because the regenerative farms that we're backing, because of the the belief that this is better for your gut flora. Like, it's all there. Like, all those subjects are like really hot right now. So where is the example show of the kitchen that's doing good on all these levels? Come on, someone needs to make that.
I think the Bear has a good message, as in why kitchens shouldn't be like that, but it's only speaking to people that have worked in the industry to know that that's not the way it's supposed to be, but to give an example to others that may be watching, and but also while still glorifying it at the same time. So
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to see it from a perspective of someone that's never worked in the industry.
Oh, fully. But some of my family members and friends watch it, and they've messaged me and they've been like, Ben, is that what it's like? Yeah, are you all right, mate?
Are you like that? Did they say that?
A little bit. Do you know what I mean? But the end result is I could be so easy. Like, I literally am millennia of that man, but I'm only sat here because I've realized I popped out the other side and I've realized that there's a way better way of doing it. I read Kitchen Confidential like everyone else on my way up, CDP, just about had the time to read a book, read the book. I carried it around like a Marxist novel. Like, I was like, this is me, and then I reread it after, after I had Blossom and became a sous chef. And I was like, to me, that did not date well. This stuff, like, not cool. And yet still it's like quoted and seen as like the way, what you got. No, mate. Like, I don't know. It was dead easy for me, right? Because I just had this overbearing feeling, this filter of like, what would Blossom say? What would my daughter say? And so obviously when I'm reading the book and I'm like, I imagine that she might be a line cook in that environment, I'll be like, there's no way. Only because, I'm an overprotective, overbearing guy. But ultimately what I really realized was that it's not safe for all of us, for any of us. It's over time, and but that time's gone. Like, we must move the industry on if we are going to create safe environments, to have careers, but also to have businesses that can do more than just feeding people and making money.
Tell me about, so basically when you talk to us about your staff or the chefs coming up that they become partners, you basically flip like the triangle upside down, like where you're at the bottom and
Oh, okay, yeah.
everybody moves up and they have complete
Yeah.
ownership of the business and giving them like a sense of feeling that they can make this their own.
Yeah, definitely. So there's loads of ways that you can go employee owned. So EA, as it's known,
Mhm.
has lots of different models, and there's whole websites out there that you can use to track your own progress as a company. And it's a bit like going B Corp, but like there's a whole load of things that you need to do to your articles of association, your legal status. Really boring. Nothing to do with chopping onions. Um, but ultimately, what it allows for is it allows for you to invest in people and for them to see that they have a future, beyond the hierarchy of the kitchen or beyond the timeline of a senior chef, which is about 5 to 8 years before they should step out and do something themselves or carry on and go executive. Like that's pretty much
Mhm.
what it is. So what we realized is we had these amazing people and we had opportunities for growth, but that was at odds to the balance that we wanted to create. So we realized that by empowering other people to take on that risk as owners, that we were able to continue with growth, but we were also able to relinquish control and dilute our share as existing owners. So therefore, getting closer to that balance. So every time that I give up, percentages of what I own as a business, I also give up responsibility, and I give up time, and I give up energy, and I have that time and that energy and that lower level of stress to be a better dad and be a better husband. That's what I choose to use it on. This obviously only works if there's a base level of income. So the business has to be profitable.
Mhm.
If not, I'm back doing the dishes. And that's happened a few times. And that's absolutely fine. Like you go in and, you're on the shift and it's very healthy actually. So what the triangle and the flipping of it. So what that was is I'm very visual as a learner. And uh, um, often when I'm talking to people, I'll be drawing stuff or trying to get them to imagine stuff. Analogies are like sort of cliche.
Mhm.
Actually, it's people take the piss out of me for it because they're like, "Go on, just tell us an analogy of what you're actually saying." But basically, if you can imagine the hierarchical structure of a pyramid, so obviously it's this shape, and that's the Escoffier system. So you have the senior chef, the head chef at the top, and then the sous chef, CDP, commies, and obviously there's derivatives of that. So what I realized was that those systems were against some of the values that I believed in, but also they broke down communication. Okay. Because if you're at the top of the pyramid, by its very nature, its stability is based on people staying underneath you. So that's a position of power. And if power is abused, which it often is, then there tends to be a breakdown in communication. So, for example, if you're at the top of the pyramid and someone beneath you has a good idea about how to do something, how do they pass that information up the pyramid without dismantling the pyramid and putting themselves at your level? So this is all really basic, like
Mhm.
business model stuff with a little bit of psychology involved. So what I realized was that our model couldn't be that. And so we played around with other shapes and spaces and sizes and stuff, and linear, circle, matrix. And the one that really stuck was the V, which ironically is also a symbol for femininity, for maternal leadership. So the idea is that the person at the bottom of the triangle there is the person that has ultimate total responsibility. So that might be the legal responsibility, of the health and hygiene of
Hmm.
of an establishment, and it might also mean that they have responsibility for the taxes and all of that sort of stuff. But after that kind of boring stuff, the creativity of the team, and the way that we do things around here, like the decisions made around the everyday behaviors, and this kind of slowly slides into culture.
Hmm.
But that is able to flow, that energy and that information is able to flow readily because the leadership people are there purely to support the other people to have the best day that they can have. So if you've got like servers and you've got commie chefs doing an amazing job, I guarantee you they will show you efficiencies in your own business because you cannot be there working it out. But if they feel loved and supported in any kind of environment, I guarantee you they'll start to have behaviors of leadership, such as they will start checking invoices on prices and highlighting these onions are
Hmm.
more expensive than last time, chef. And they'll want to pass that information on. But also, if there's a dish change, or if there's a way of doing things in the kitchen that needs to be proactively communicated across, to senior chefs, it's done in a really creative way because they don't feel like they're upsetting the apple cart
Hmm.
by telling the sous chef, I think there's a better way of doing this dish. But they do it, and instead of that, they're like, I like try that. And then the sous chef, that's brilliant. Like, come here, try that. That's amazing. And then it's like, right, that's going in the WhatsApp group. This is how we do this now, boom.
Hmm.
And the reason it doesn't work the other way is because when it all comes up to one person and it all is all because of that one person, then you can only go at the speed of, that human being on a good day, on a bad day, on an amazing day, and also on a sick day. Like there's no consistency to it. Whereas when you flip it round, people take responsibility for what they're doing. They can see that that adds to the positivity of the experience. And it also helps them get a bit closer and further along with their career for what they might want, which might be ownership, which is an opportunity for them
Hmm.
within our models. Really long-winded way of explaining that.
No, that was great.
Yeah.
I understood it fully.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think as being a cook for many years, that when someone gives you the tools to basically do what you want to do and be creative and feel acknowledged that it's okay to do that without getting punished
Yeah.
is it's really uplifting, and
Yeah.
it makes you want to work harder and better for the business that you're working for.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't necessarily experience that when I worked for other people.
Hmm.
It only came about when one of those moments where we were just mucking around with leadership styles. But it was like overnight change in energy and behaviors. I mentioned earlier the culture thing, the
Hmm.
everyday behaviors that were being created off the back of it. This is the issue quite often with business culture change, is that so the idea of culture is it's a representation of the way that you do things around here, the way that a place feels, the way it smells, the way it tastes, the way it breathes, you know. Um, so when you're trying to change a culture in a space, you need to basically dig down to the micro behaviors, what I call the everyday behaviors, that would add up in like tiny little increments to the culture change that you want to see. So let's say that you have bad culture. So people are selfish, turning up late, shitting on each other in terms of the sections, you know, leaving this place messy, maybe even like not being particularly truthful about wastage and about what's going through the till. So how would you change that? Well, it starts with the everyday behaviors. So when a leadership team decide to show respect in the form of, hey, can I get you a drink? Hey, have you had a cup of tea this morning? Do you want a cup of tea? Hey, how's your day? I heard on your day off you did this. Was that cool? And then it's things like the leadership team going in and setting people's sections up. Boards are out, papers down, it's wet, the boards, the knives. You walk into the environment, you're like, someone cares about me. I mean, Jesus, it's like maternal instinct leadership stuff. But if you start to change the smaller everyday behaviors of, can I get you a cup of tea? Do you need a hand with that? How's things? I guarantee you the end result will be people that clean their section, people that are honest about wastage, people that are kind to one another. And I also guarantee you that all of those people who aren't good people, and there are not good people, their colors will like burn through, will show, because they just will not be able to live within the kindness. They will just, it'll crawl on their skin. They will just be as negative and pessimistic and ruinous as they can be, and they will take themselves off. And I think that's what killing it with kindness means.
No, that's exactly what it means.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I've seen and lived through perfect examples of that.
Yeah.
It's funny that we're talking about, having very maternalistic approach to running businesses and being calm. But this is funny because after every segment, we always want to talk about your best in the weeds story.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I'm sure you have a lot of them.
Jeez, yeah.
You could just tell us anyone that comes to mind. I'm sure they're great.
There's one best in the weeds story. Okay, so is basically, oh, I actually get a bit sweaty thinking about it. So you're literally going through this with me as I speak. So basically, it was a really important dinner. It was one of those breakthrough client dinners. So we were had this opportunity of this client way above our pay grade. We'd done some private chefing for them, and they'd offered up this catering gig. And they're the kind of client that will rebook, and wicked little cash cow, but also completely aligned with our vision of where we wanted to go. So loads of stress. And I'm doing my kind of now signature, but at that stage, like early carnations of my whole smoked chickens. So the whole smoked chickens are now this beautiful sugar brined free range chickens that we offset smoke on beech, which is a hardwood in the UK, deciduous. And then we rest them in a basically a cider vinegar with its mother still in it. And there's a lot of soft herbs like fennel and tarragon going on in there. Okay, so what happened for that dish to even exist today was that the smokers were full of the chickens, and they were getting to that bliss point. And in the UK, we got a lot of bad weather. A rain sort of storm came through and just like completely soaked all the smokers. And just as the chickens were kind of moving into that sort of smoke rest, that like roast rest sort of temperature, and it kind of killed the fires, which then made the chickens shrink. Okay. And they kind of they dropped all their juices. They kind of squeezed. And obviously that created a ridiculous flare up because the fat just went straight and the embers and boom. And so the smoke, I just remember looking up and just seeing that awful acrid white smoke. Okay. And literally as I'm looking at that, the clients are coming in like to sit down. And so I just ran towards it. I opened all the smokers, got the smokers billowing out. And I was just grabbing the chickens and chucking them into gastropans. And they just looked like sooty and awful. So the next thing I did is I grabbed a 5 litre of cider vinegar that we had, and I just like was splashing it all over it, almost washing them in it. Anyway, the feeling of like, oh fuck, like I've like fully going to the point of like, okay, so I'll walk in there and I'm going to say, my point is, it didn't come to it. We ended up with this like cider vinegar smoked flavor resting juices, and the ash, the soots came off straight away, and we obviously rested carved, and then we tasted that dressing, and that's really good. That's ridiculously good. So we kind of almost, we didn't make a gravy out of it. We got almost like a mayo vinaigrette, almost, you know. So egg yolks, and then and we kind of just dressed the chicken back over with it. And the final flurry was like, just cover it in tarragon, cover it in tarragon and fennel. So we had those, painstakingly picked herbs that you do in catering gigs where you've got nothing else to do. And chuck it all over it. And anyway, we pulled it off. But I don't think I'd ever been in such a situation where I was like, if this doesn't go well, I won't be able to ride out of this. Like, I so needed that paycheck. Yes, that's my in the weeds story.
Ouch.
Man, yeah.
That sucks.
I did stay kind and
I'm so
calm.
glad that you got out of it, though.
Yeah, thanks,
that was
mate.
that was a miracle for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, it was great to have you in the studio today. Thank you for, it was just great to catch you here.
Yeah,
I'm really glad I got to talk to you, and hope our audience can learn something from you. So,
yeah, nice one, Brendan. Thanks, mate.
Thank you so much.
No worries.
That was it, and that's your line check for today. We'll catch you next time. Bye.